Hey guys, welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. Today I'm doing this video because I kind of wanted to start on a new idea that I have for my channel. And it's going to be like my favorite things. It's going to be like a top whatever Tuesday. And I'm going to be going over all those favorite things that I like that have to do with books and reading and that kind of stuff. So for today I decided to do my top favorite authors. I'm not going to have any set amount that I'm going to be doing on these. I'm just going to choose whatever I choose. And so anyway, like I said, today's going to be my favorite authors. And if you've been following my videos, you will know that my all-time favorite author is Stephen King. And I've been reading Stephen King for a long time, and it's only been within the last 3 or 4 years that I've really started, gathering up his books. I used to have Stephen King books, and I don't know if people were borrowing them and not bringing them back, or they were lost in moves, or what. So within the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe, I've been really starting to pick up on his books, which you can see these top 2 shelves right here. Those are all Stephen King. There's not too many Stephen King books that I've not read, and there's not too many more that I need to buy. So I've just really enjoyed just about everything that he's wrote. There's only been like a couple that I haven't liked, like Black House I didn't really care for. That was the one he wrote with Peter Straub. Now The Talisman was the first book to that, and I really liked that one. So I don't know what changed with the Black House. It just didn't appeal to me. I struggled through that book. I did finally finish reading the book, but I didn't really take a whole lot away from it. My favorite book, of course, from Stephen King is It, and I've read that book 3 times. One of the reasons I like Stephen King is because his character development is awesome. And, sometimes it gets a little descriptive and a little wordy, but in the end, you understand why he developed the character the way he did. They become so real, and they're just, it's like, it's something that you would have sitting right next to you in your everyday life. And I can connect to a lot of his characters that he has written in his books. And he's got a great talent for that. And he's got also a great talent for painting the scene where the plot is, and everything is always so real and vivid. And one of those that I found the greatest in was 11/22/63. The scenery that he painted in that book was fantastic. It was like you were actually back in the 60s. And it was really a great book. So I've enjoyed him for a long time, and I'm sure I'm going to continue to enjoy whatever it is he writes. My next favorite author is a rather new favorite author for me, and that's Jonathan Maberry. And you guys, if you've watched my videos, you know I've been going on and on about Jonathan Maberry. I was really late to the zombie scene, and actually it was a friend of mine on Goodreads who had mentioned Jonathan Maberry and his Betty and Mira series. And that was my start on zombies. Well, not my start. I did read another book before that. But Jonathan Maberry writes great zombie tales. He writes both young adult, and he writes adult as well. And he, too, can create really vivid scenes. And if there was really going to be a zombie apocalypse, I would imagine it being like it is in his books. In both his young adult and adult ones. I've been enjoying them both immensely. And he writes really, really, really good scenes, and it doesn't have to be drastically gory. It's bearable. That's one of the reasons why I don't like a lot of the zombie stuff, is because it gets really, ew. So, I find that the way he writes them is very enjoyable. And his characters, my favorite character now, I think, of all, is Joe Ledger. in the Joe Ledger series. He is a great character, and he's somebody that I would really like to get to know had he been real. And he writes with realism, and he writes with depth, and I really enjoy, even though it's zombies, this would be the way I would picture it if it was realistic. My next one I would have to say is Ellen Hopkins. Within the last couple years, I've started really reading her stuff, and I think one of the issues people has with Ellen Hopkins is that she writes in verse, which I don't have a problem with that at all. I love it. I think it's beautiful. She's got a wonderful way of writing, and she touches on real life issues, and I think that's important. I mean, I like to read a book that is that real, and she also writes in great depth, and her characters are very real, and even her Crank series was based on true events that happened in her life. And I really find myself lost in her books when I'm reading. I can't seem to quit reading them, and I feel like I'm right there, and I'm feeling everything that her characters are going through. And she can really make you feel every single emotion that we have. And I really like that about her stuff. Next favorite author for me is Jeffery Deaver. I just recently started reading his stuff. I think last year was when I read the very first book of his, which was A Maiden's Grave. And it was a pretty good read. It was good enough for me to want to continue to read his stuff. So now I've been reading this series with my friend Catherine. It's the Catherine Dance series, and it starts with The Sleeping Doll. And then the second book is Roadside Crosses, and the third book is XO. Now, he's going to have more books to this series. It's going to come out like next year, I think. His next one comes out for the Catherine Dance series. And starting next month, we're going to start on our bookathon. We're going to start reading each month his Leak and Rhyme series, which that starts with The Bone Collector. I'm sure everybody's watched the movie. So we're going to start that next month. So everything that I read from him, I've not been disappointed with. He's really good at the suspense thing, and his characters, at least Catherine Dance, she's great. She's one of those characters that she's a very strong female protagonist, and I really like that. I like to see strong female protagonists just as much as I do the male. And she's a very strong character. She's not perfect, and she has to fight her own demons. And she does really well, and she doesn't let people walk all over her. And I just love the strength that this character has. So I look forward to reading more of Jeffery Deaver. He's got, a lot of standalone books too that I'll probably eventually get. For my next one, I've got Harlan Coben, who is also another new author for me. I started reading him last year as well. Not been disappointed about anything he's wrote yet, and I'm going to continue to read his stuff. I've been dying to get to 6 years, and I finally got the book, so I'm going to plan on reading that in the next couple months. He also has a good eye for suspense. He writes a really good tale, and I like the books that has more than just one mystery, and something else happens, and something else happens, and Coben and Deaver both write like that, so I love that. I love that in a suspense book. I don't want just to be one mystery and it's done. So it's kind of nice having more than one mystery to solve. And I also like our detectives to not be perfect. I don't like the perfect detective that they get everything done right the first time, or that kind of thing. I want them to be raw, and I want them to be scarred in some way, or fighting some kind of a demon, not perfect. And I find that in both Deaver and Coben's work. The next one I have is Lisa Jackson. Now, Lisa Jackson is not a new favorite. I've liked Lisa Jackson actually for quite a while, and I've been working on getting a lot of her series together. A lot of her books are good enough as standalones. They just go by city, most of them do. But she's got a series that I'm dying to get into, and it's the To Die series. And I now have all those books, so I'll be able to start jumping into those. And I got my list made up to finish up the other series that I've got started and I have to finish still. So Lisa Jackson is classed, I think, as romantic suspense. And one of the things I like about her is that it's more about suspense and not quite as much about the romance. Now, she does have her own romance books, too, which I don't really read those. So she's kind of been able to keep that separate. She's very fluid writer. She's very easy to read, and they're just quick. Like, I read them, and I suck them up in a couple days. So she's got that gift of writing a very fluid story. There's not a whole lot of having to say, what? And that kind of stuff. So I've really enjoyed Lisa Jackson, and I look forward to reading all of her stuff and having all of her books. I'm getting close. And the last one I decided to discuss is Graham Masterton, which you never hear about him. He is English, and it's very hard to get his books over here. I've only got like maybe 5 or 6 of his books. But to me, in my opinion, Graham Masterton is one of the greatest paranormal authors there is. And I wish I could just get all of his stuff and have all of his stuff. He writes, when he writes, like I said, he's paranormal, but he adds a bit of history in all of his books. So you go back in time in a lot of his books to the Civil War era, or, you know, World War I or II era or something. There's always something that he goes back to some place in history. There's one that's a Native American history, and there's one that's a Civil War. I mean, they're fantastic, and they're very quick reads. And my favorite book of Graham Masterton has got to be Edgewise. And this book is kind of scary. It's pretty creepy. And I love books that can make me feel, ooh, what's going to happen kind of thing. And his really do that to me. And I love his work. And all the books that I've got right now, I think it's like 6. I've read all of them. And I just keep going to the bookstore to try and find more. So I'm going to have to probably start ordering them online, because I'm not finding them in the bookstore. But anyway, he's probably the best paranormal. I'm not talking romantic vampires, okay? I'm talking like entities and ghosts and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, he's really good. So if you like paranormal stuff that's not romantic vampires and that kind of stuff, then you should definitely check out Graham Masterton, because he is like top in that genre. And that's it for my favorite authors. I have a ton of favorite authors, but this video would be way too long if I sat here and listed all of my favorite authors. So next Tuesday, you will see a whole new list of favorites of the topic that I choose. And I hope to see you back with that one. Thanks, guys, for staying tuned. See you again soon. Bye.